Patrick, I thought a highlight of October for the Odyssey community was the presentation we received from the Legend team, talking about the initiative in general, the work on hypertension, and then the plans moving forward. What really struck you about the work on hypertension and just the overall Legend initiative?
Yeah, it was a really great community presentation by a series of leaders in our community to talk about what's going on with Legend, the progress we've made, and the ongoing work. The presentation started off with Anna sharing about the Legend principles, this idea that we have guiding rules that are following best practices that can be consistently applied across multiple research questions to generate reliable evidence. And then we heard from Ray talking about the application of those principles to hypertension, where we've conducted a very large set of analysis for hypertension, but now we're starting to see the fruits of that labor result in actionable clinical information, including Ray's paper in hypertension that's specifically demonstrating the comparative effectiveness of ACEs and ARBs. And we also heard from UN about the need to study dual therapy in hypertension and how these principles that we've come up with can actually let us understand that even though right now patients treated with hypertension are being given a wide array of different treatments in various combinations, there's an opportunity to use real-world data to drive insights about what might be the most effective therapy.
It was really exciting to hear about future plans for this for the Legend initiative and specifically its work on type 2 diabetes. Can you talk about that and what interests you about that part of the presentation?
Yeah, what I'm really excited about as we think about maturing this Legend approach is that we developed this proof of concept idea. We applied it to the area of major depressive disorder, and then we applied it again to the area of hypertension. And in both times, we gained tremendous insights. And so now we're turning our attention to type 2 diabetes. And we heard from Rowan talking about how we are coming up with this design. And we've actually now authored a protocol that describes how we're going to look at second-line treatments for type 2 diabetes and try to really understand in a more comprehensive way the safety and effectiveness. There's a wide array of diabetes treatments. And right now, the clinical guidelines suggest that many of those treatments may be equally effective for many different patients. But I think there's a lot more we could learn from real-world data. And we also heard from Aki and Fan about the fact that these problems in diabetes actually represent new methodologic challenges in terms of thinking about more nuanced ways to do causal inference in survival outcomes. And what I really appreciated at the end of that presentation from the Legend team was Mark Suchard's call to action to all of us in the community, because there's a great opportunity, whether you are a data partner who would like to be able to execute the Legend analysis for type 2 diabetes, whether you are a methodologic researcher and want to join Aki and Fan and the team in thinking about some of these core deep issues, or whether you're a clinical researcher and you just want to help with interpreting the evidence, there's a place for you in the Legend initiative, and we're eager to see more people join the fray.
Yeah, one of two really exciting initiatives coming up in November. That study date Mark Suchard announced was going to be it's going to start on November 1st, and then later in November, November 18th, will be the APAC Symposium. This is the second straight year that the Asia Pacific community has had its symposium. That will be virtual in the Teams environment. You can still register for that. What are you most looking forward to on November 18th?
Yeah, I'm really excited that the Odyssey APAC community is holding their own symposium in their own time zones to accommodate researchers throughout the Asia Pacific region. But actually, because it's a virtual event, I'm really hoping that our entire global community takes advantage of this opportunity. There'll be presentations representing some of the global conversations that we're having, whether that be George providing a review of the state of the community, Peter talking about Eden, or Christian talking about the HL7 fire collaboration that we now have actively ongoing. But what I'm actually really excited about for this year's Odyssey APAC meeting is getting back into GatherTown. We'll be using that virtual environment to allow study leads and work groups to come together in the APAC community, and as well as to hear from the chapter leads across all of the individual countries that are actually participating. I think it's going to be a great time for us to have a more meaningful collaboration one-on-one throughout that time together. So it's going to be a great time.
And once again, November 18th is the date. You can still register. You can find the registration link and more information on the Odyssey APAC page right on odyssey.org. I know you'll be there. I'm looking forward to it as well. Hopefully members around the world in Odyssey will join. Thanks, Patrick.
All right. Thanks, Greg.